What's going on, everybody? Doug here, one of the host, producers, and creators of the Genre of Your Life podcast, here with a very, and I mean super long overdue review roundup episode for you all this week. I was doing so good with these when the fall began, and then I'm going back to my old habits, so please forgive me. It's been October, November, been a long-ass year, and you heard me right, it's been a long-ass year. With work, I have a new schedule at work, a lot of screenings, a lot of events going on. Friends are getting married, everything. I mean, I have family events. I mean, you name it. So it's been a very, again, work stuff. I mean, it's been very, very busy. My ASU stunt doubles are doing pretty good now. So it's kind of just, well, even with Sam Levitt now being injured, it's been a really hectic fall. So please forgive me. I've been behind a lot of these review roundup episodes, so you probably get a lot of these as we move into the kind of the quarter four of movies and entertainment. So please forgive me. I know this summer I was kind of pretty bad in these. Life got a little hectic over that summer as well. But hey, I will try to do better going forward. Got to snap out of it, man. You know, your audience, you guys as an audience has been there for us since it'll be 3 years this week, which has been crazy for the show. So please forgive me, and I promise to do better going forward as we end this amazing year of movies in 2025. But on this week's review roundup episode, I have my overdue reviews of both Roofman and Smashing Machine, two movies that I was kind of late to seeing because, like I said, life gets busy sometimes. So I saw these before they left theaters near me, so I'm definitely eager to review these movies for you all. And as usual, of course, two very, 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 very different movies to review, which are kind of my thing now. These review episodes have been like picking the most opposite movies to review for you all. And just wait for this next one we have. I think after this one, I have my reviews of Predator, Now You See Me, let's see, Die My Love, and Christie with Sydney Sweeney. So I got a lot more to cover on those for you all, and I can't wait this Friday, guys. My most anticipated movie of 2025 is here, and I'm talking about Now You See Me. Okay, it is definitely The Running Man. Edgar Wright's my boy. He's one of my favorite filmmakers. My dad put me on his movies when I was a kid with Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. I was just mesmerized by those movies. And then I remember seeing Scott Pilgrim with some friends when I was in 7th grade, and it just clicked for me where I was like, what? And I love that movie so much. So he's been a favorite filmmaker of mine, probably top 3 since then. But again, that's next week's episode, of course. So I'll get for that. But again, you are here for Roofman and Smashing Machine. But before that, guys, of course, a little housekeeping. You can find this show on your favorite podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, or your favorite podcast platform of choice. We'll have our full video show on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Midway Avenue Productions. When you're on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, don't be shy. Leave us a review, comment, rating. Again, we want to hear from you. Like I said, your feedback and support is the backbone of this community. I truly mean that. You've helped us out a lot this past couple of years with growth for more opportunities for South by Southwest and more festivals and screening coverages, you name it. So don't be shy. We want to hear from you guys. Again, neutral, negative, positive. Seriously, your feedback, we'll take it. We want to learn how we can improve more on the show. What more do you want to see from us? What more do you want to hear from the podcast? More interviews, hopefully, more games, etc. So don't be shy. Leave us a comment, review, and rating on any kind of platform, any podcast platform you're on, and of course, our YouTube page. And we're so close, guys. We're 855. We're 855 on YouTube. That 1,000 subs on YouTube is going to be huge for us. Like I said, more opportunities for events, festival screenings, and of course, monetization for the podcast. So thank you all so much for getting into us where we are now. And we are still, again, 3 years in, and we still got a lot more to go. And we're just getting started, guys. So thank you all. The past 3 years have been truly an honor. I speak for myself, Moses, and Nick. We love doing the show. It's been a big part of like our Thursdays, a big part of, seeing movies now. And just really, I think it's been really cool to just, grow the show with them, but also just have the community with all you guys. So thank you all again for the support. We truly do appreciate it. But alrighty, guys, with that said, we do have a lot more to cover, as the weeks come on. But again, on this week's episode, again, I have my reviews of Roofman as well as Smashing Machine. And I'm going to go, as always, in order I saw them. And I saw Roofman first. I saw them kind of like a few weeks out, so after they came out. So I had actually, what's cool? I had my private screening of each movie because the theater by me, no one really goes to, which is a damn shame. I got to see both these movies kind of by myself, which was really cool. So I saw Roofman first, and Roofman I was very intrigued by because of the premise of the movie, just because who's involved, of course. It's Channing Tatum, Kristen Dunst, Juno Temple, Peter Dinklage, Keith Stanfield, some of my favorite actors working today. And also, I like that this is Derek Cianfrance, who did one of my absolute favorite movies of all time with Place Beyond the Pines. You probably heard the earlier shows of the podcast. That was a movie that all my friends and our former co-host, one of my good friends still, Joel, was saying for so many years, man, you gotta watch Place Beyond the Pines, man. It's so good, so good. And I was like, I'll get around to it eventually. But everyone I talked to just loved that movie, and I'm like, I get it, whatever. And I remember watching during my semester abroad when I was in London. I was just floored by it. I remember I was stunned. I remember watching it on my computer, and I sat there and I was like, what I just watched. And I know when those movies kind of happen for me, those kind of like those experiences, whether I'm watching it, well, I mean, hopefully watching it on a big screen in a theater, which is kind of like my second home at this point. But, you know, when I had those experiences watching a movie like that, whether it's at home or wherever or in a theater, and I sit there kind of stunned and I'm like, whoa. And I remember having this reaction to that movie where I was like, I need to go for a walk, because I just felt really just like that's hit by that movie in a really emotional way, very intense way, where I was like, man, what I just watched. And so for all those years, everyone told me I should watch it. They were right. That movie just blew me away. And I haven't watched it in a while. I have it on Blu-ray. I remember I came back from London. I bought it on Blu-ray when I came back, and I was like, I have to own this movie. I haven't watched it in a while, but it just really it got me in a very certain way. So I'm definitely overdue to rewatch it. But I just love that movie so much. I do know he also did stuff like Blue Valentine. And a lot of his movies are definitely on my list to watch. He also wrote and produced came out during COVID called Sound of Metal with Riz Ahmed, which is a very underrated movie, very deep, very moving movie as well. So I bet that for sure a fan of his work a lot. So it was really cool to see like him kind of do something kind of like a little different in a way where, you know, he makes movies that he makes really human stories, really emotional human stories that you get behind of. And a lot of these guys, a lot of his movies, you follow guys that are not good dudes, unfortunately, but you still root for him. And he's one of those filmmakers that you can definitely get behind, you know, rooting for quote unquote the bad guy. You know, in Place Beyond the Pines, it's, you know, Ryan Gosling isn't the best dude, but like you kind of see his motivation. Or, you know, with Bradley Cooper, you see his motivation. And with this, in this movie too, we'll get into, Roofman's a true story. This is based on a real guy who broke out of prison. So again, Roofman, for some context, after escaping from prison, former soldier and professional thief Jerry Manchester finds a hidden hideout Toys R Us, surviving undetected for months while planning his next move. However, when Jeffrey falls for a divorced mom, his double life starts to unravel, setting off a compelling and suspenseful game of cat and mouse as his past closes in. I just realized Jeffrey, and also the giraffe is Jeffrey from Toys R Us. I made that connection now after seeing the movie weeks ago. So cool little context for that. Based on a true story, also inspired by a true story because the guy is a real dude. I remember seeing this trailer when F1 came out this summer, and I was like, I'm seeing that movie for sure. And the trailers looked very different from Derek Cianfrance's movies. Again, Derek Cianfrance, again, like I said, makes really dark and very heavy movies about emotions and making the wrong decisions. And this looked a bit lighter in tone from his other movies. Still follows guys who make bad decisions. Of course, this guy Jeffrey Manchester, who got caught up with, you know, robbing McDonald's. His big thing was he robbed like 40 McDonald's, I want to say, and then broke out of jail, and then took shelter and hiding in the walls of Toys R Us, which is a great crazy story of its own, but it's true. And so I was intrigued by that. I'm like, this is a true story. How's it gonna go? I'll be honest with you guys. The trailers, I will be honest, I think the trailer definitely, I'll say this, I think it was a bit misleading. Not in a bad way, but like it looked more goofy and zany and like almost like Coen Brothers-esque with the trailers. In the movie, it's a bit more serious in tone. There's still like definitely humor to be had in like certain parts with Channing Tatum character Jeffrey, you know, kind of like being like a big ass kid who's like convict, and Toys R Us kind of playing with like the toys and riding the bikes, whatever. You know the peanut M&Ms. And a lot of the humor also comes from Peter Dinklage kind of playing the really kind of like stuck up kind of dickhead boss. And so definitely that's the wrong Roofman. That's why Google put up actual brooms. The trailers it looked like it was more like kind of fun and zany and kind of wacky. It's more serious, but again, that's, if you know Derek Cianfrance, like I said, that's more his style of movies. So knowing that, I definitely would say like, hey, if you think it's gonna be kind of like goofy and funny, not really. It's definitely about a guy trying to survive, not get caught from the cops and law enforcement. But you're definitely intrigued by his story because he was kind of like a nice criminal. And I said this in my Adapted reaction that like this would be good pairing with Baby Driver, because Baby Driver, yeah, he's a getaway driver, he's a criminal, but like you kind of root for him because he's nice and he's kind. And everyone that Jeffrey Manchester robbed in the movie, he robbed like he was very nice. Like, oh, like I'm locking you in the freezer. You don't have a jacket? Well, here, take my jacket, whatever. He's kind of like a weirdly nice and charming criminal. Like, oh, okay. But you see the appeal of him about how he's very charming. He's very, very suave, very good with his words. The way he kind of got tucked his way out of things or into things, and definitely I think Channing Tatum definitely shows that. And with that said, I think this is Channing Tatum's best performance of his career so far. Listen, I love Jump Street movies, I really do. I love him in a lot of the comedies, but to me, this showed his like. I think he's like worked all his career to get here as an actor, and it shows. I think starting off from movies like like Step Up and She's the Man to like G.I. Joe and Jump Street, and then I think we saw a bit of a turn for him definitely in Foxcatcher. Not a fan of that movie personally, but like you definitely said you see the kind of the wheels turning for him as more of a serious dramatic actor, and with this, he definitely shines, and this is his movie, and I was really impressed to see him kind of just like really take on this role, because again, it is definitely a career best performance, and I think him and Derek Cianfrance work very well together. So to do more projects together, sign me up. So I think they definitely got like a good balance of like director and actor duo. So just watching him, I was really floored by him. I was like, wow, good for Channing Tatum. The movie didn't do that well, so I think Oscar chances probably are out of the picture. And we'll get more into that with my review of Smashing Machine down the road in this episode. But I really was really super impressed by Channing Tatum. I'm like, good for him, man. 'Cause again, came kind of heartthrob dancing to goofy guy to like actually serious actor. So there's definitely a good platform and good script for him. And with that said, too, Kristen Dunst, I grew up obviously as Mary Jane in Spider-Man movies, and also again Bring It On, love that movie too, the first one. Kristen Dunst to me and him have really good chemistry, and I do like see again. I haven't seen her in the movie. Oh, I saw her in Civil War. That movie was, sure, that movie happened. But these two play off really well with each other, because again, she's playing a real person. Jeffrey Manchester, fell in love with a single mom who's working at Toys R Us. So like when he was kind of like living there, hiding in there, he was kind of like a little creepy, but kind of spying her in a way. But then he gets involved with her church. And then the guy has this kind of love, interest, romance going on. And again, you see the appeal because he's really charming. He's good with his words. He kind of won over her kid. She's a single mom, two daughters. And you see the appeal of like, yeah, this guy definitely woo over because of his charm. And that's definitely like, you definitely see like their chemistry on screen throughout, the ups and downs of it all. And you definitely tell he has a lot of love for her, which is kind of crazy too, because in the movie, and I'm pretty sure in real life, it might be a minor spoiler, and I apologize, but the opening movie, he gets caught at his new house that he bought all the money he stole from McDonald's, and the FBI shows up, cops showed up, and he makes a run for it. He had a previous marriage. He had two kids and a wife. His wife hates him, and he's trying to do right by his kids, especially his older daughter that he loves so much, but he can't be part of that life. And you feel for him despite him making really bad decisions, making him being like a thief. But you do feel because he wants to be with his daughter so badly, but he can't because he fucked up, because his consequences definitely got in the way of that. But you definitely see that he's trying to do kind of right the second time around, even though still being an escaped convict, that like with Kristen Dunst's character's kids, like he misses that connection with his daughter. So definitely he's for sure kind of trying to channel that, like, hey, I missed this, so like I'm gonna do whatever I can to kind of like make up for what I've lost. And I think kind of appreciate that angle. You get the whole emotional element and angle to it. With that said, though, this all takes place, I think, in like Charlotte or near Charlotte, and the McDonald's and the Toys R Us he stays out in. Keith plays his buddy who also serves in the military, and help him kind of has like side business kind of making fake passports and fake documentation. They kind of tell him like, don't go too far, stay nearby, and you're like, really? But I guess, and the narration from Channing Tatum, he was like, yeah, he goes, most people tell you get far as you way, but I stayed pretty close. And I was like, is that a good idea? I mean, I guess he could work around because he was there for a couple of months. But the thing is, once he gets to involved with Kristen Dunst's church and those people, again, this is like 2004, early 2000s. I had a hard time that no one watched the news and no one was like, hey, aren't you that guy that broke out of prison that there was a huge manhunt for and there still is a manhunt for? In this big ass church, no one is like, hey, you're the guy who robbed McDonald's. You're the guy that broke out of prison. Nope, not one person recognized him. And I'm like, I find that very hard to believe that in the early to mid 2000s, no one was watching the news close enough to be like, you look familiar. No. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, if it was like maybe the 90s or 80s, even then I'd be like, oh, I guess. But early 2000s, they would be like, hey, you're the guy who robbed McDonald's. You're the guy that broke out of prison. Let's get his ass. Call the cops. So I had a hard time believing that no one, and again, he stayed nearby. If he went to, if he went to like Denver or like maybe Arizona, but like, okay, maybe because it's a whole different state or a different region, but he stayed on the East. He stayed in North Carolina. So I'm like, no one once was like, you look familiar. Where can I know you from? And so that to me, I was like, I call bullshit on that. But maybe that could have been a dramatic part of the movie, or may added for dramatic. A lot of these, true story, inspired by true story movies, whatever, or based on true story movies, definitely take, creative liberties. That could be one of them. But the whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, damn, not one person was like, where do I know you from? So that kind of definitely bothered me a bit, where I was like, no, something ain't clicking here, whatever. And I think towards the end, when the shenanigans get out of hand, you definitely kind of feel like, yeah, where was this like maybe a few weeks ago or during the second act? And speaking of that, I think the first act goes by really fast. It's a good setup. I do think the second act middle drags a lot. And it's like, I want to say it's like 2 hours and 10 minutes. You feel the runtime in the 2 hours and 6 minutes. You feel the runtime in the middle for sure, to a point of like, okay, like where are we going with this? Like, what we're going, and it definitely slows down to kind of like, develop the romance between Kristen Dunst's character and Channing Tatum's character. And yeah, you want to feel for them, of course, too. But I found myself kind of like a little bored in the middle, where I was like, okay, like where are we going with this? What's next? Blah 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 blah. But then when the third act comes, it's berserk. It goes bonkers, definitely bombastic, and you're kind of like, okay, this energy that we're missing from the first that the first act showed, but we're missing the second act. So definitely the third act definitely picked up a lot, and it just goes, and you definitely kind of feel like the intensity and like kind of like how bonkers it gets, and you're just like, oh, what's gonna happen? And I knew what happened to him, prior to reading this, because I mean, on all the press and the talk shows of like, oh, we called. I mean, sorry, but he's in prison, but it was definitely. That's where I feel like the Coen brothers aspect definitely kind of kicked in a little bit with the third act, where it's like, oh, this is going crazy. This is like balls to the wall. Like, oh, here we go now. So that I liked a lot. And again, it was definitely refreshing to see Channing Tatum kind of like really own this role and embody this role. I will say though, both Lakeith Stanfield, who I'm a massive fan of since Atlanta, even stuff like Straight Outta Compton and the movie Dope, one of my favorite actors working today. I thought him and Juno Temple were very underutilized, and they're two of our young actors working today. And I feel like they didn't really have much to do towards maybe the third act he did. But he kind of just like is kind of like his buddy that he served time with, served in the military with. And I was like, oh man, you got Lakeith, man, one of the best, really. And then Juno Temple too. I felt like she's there to kind of like as a plot device to be like, hey, like we're gonna get you out of this. We put a wig on you, get you your new identity. It's like, man, you have two good actors, and she was obviously phenomenal in Ted Lasso. But it's like, man, you got two actors that definitely can pull their weight and pull the punches in terms of performances. But they kind of felt a little underutilized to a point. I'm like, oh, it's kind of a waste. I will say too, I think when the humor works, the humor definitely works. I think the humor doesn't really fully stick the landing throughout, but I definitely laughed where I was like, oh, come on, man, this is crazy. Or like you laugh because you're kind of comfortable. You're like, oh, man. But the humor definitely worked for the most part. But I do think the movie, it's a bit uneven. I do think the trailers were a bit misleading, but I definitely enjoyed it a lot. I wanted to love it. I really did. Because I love everyone involved. The trailer sold me a lot. I remember friends at TIFF saying they loved it when premiering at TIFF, and some other friends loved it too. Like, oh god, you love this movie, and I was like, yeah, I liked it. I liked it, but I didn't love it. So I would give Roofman a solid 7 out of 10. Honestly, I love, and I hate saying this because I'm pro theatrical, I'm pro movie theater experience. This probably could have been a series on Hulu or Netflix, or a movie on Netflix and Hulu. I probably would have watched it. It didn't really add anything for the theatrical experience. It didn't really do that well, unfortunately, either. But yeah, I still say would watch it. So if I'm probably on Paramount Plus, because it's Paramount, we're probably on Paramount Plus soon, whatever. So I'd say for sure stream it. I'd give this movie a solid 7 out of 10 because the performances and just definitely intrigued by the whole premise of like how this was a true story, whatever. And again, at the end of the movie too, credits where they're really saying how like, oh, he was so nice, he was so charming. That's why I kind of thought about like the scene in Baby Driver at the end where they're at the courthouse and he's like, oh, he was so nice, like he helped me, kind of like he like was nice about it when he, even though he was the getaway driver, he was nice about it. And I was like, oh, this is definitely kind of like a good companion piece to, or double feature to Baby Driver. So yeah, wanted to love it, liked it. So I give Roofman a solid 7 out of 10. Alrighty, folks, moving on to the next movie I saw, a movie that I don't know what happened, but, let's talk about it, shall we? And this is The Smashing Machine. This is from Benny Safdie of the Safdie brothers, two guys who I adore, from Uncut Gems to Good Time. They split, unfortunately, a couple years ago. They're still, and so I'm like, which is kind of a bummer. I think when they're working together, they're just magnetic. I just had a visceral reaction to both Good Time and Uncut Gems when I both saw them in college, where I was like, who are these dudes? Like, what the hell? And they got amazing performances out of Robert Pattinson and Adam Sandler. So I'm like, ooh, okay, Safdie brother, The Rock. Let's go. And Benny, who I like a lot, definitely more of an actor now. With he was in Oppenheimer. He was in Happy Gilmore 2 as the villain. He's the brother, and he was the brother in Good Time. So I definitely appreciate him as more like the kind of like he can definitely kind of like the Swiss Army knife of kind of like he can act, he can direct, he can he writes, he produces, he does the editing, he does the sound. It's really cool actually. So with this, not being an MMA fan or UFC fan, I was like, ooh, cool. Emily Blunt, who I love, one of my favorite actors working today. The Rock, who I definitely admire a lot. Fast and Furious, a lot of his movies, growing up, of course. Pain and Gain, I love. I'm like, ooh, Safdie brother and The Rock, interesting. And this is based on the true story of Mark Kerr, who was one of the early pioneers of UFC MMA, and also based on the whole documentary called The Smashing Machine as well. But The Smashing Machine, if you don't know, this is the true story of mixed martial arts and UFC fighter Mark Kerr, whose obsession with greatness made him a legend and nearly cost him everything. As we all know, this is a really turn for The Rock. The Rock, as we all know, is known for doing, the Fast and Furious, the Jumanjis, the Rampages, you name it, the Black Adams. So we haven't really seen him do a movie like this. I say against type maybe since I say Pain and Gain, and I love Pain and Gain. And my Alexa's going off right now. My Alexa's going off right now because my turn clean the coffee maker. So I definitely appreciated that The Rock wanted to do something different too. I think his last movie that came out was Red One, and I remember seeing that at the screening last year with some friends, our group, of course. And my brother loves holiday movies, so he loved that movie. But to me, I was like, it was better than I expected. But I felt like The Rock was playing The Rock. He copy and pasted his different environment. Okay, we're gonna put you in the jungle. Okay, Rampage. We're gonna put you in jungle again. Okay, Jumanji. We're gonna put you in Tights. Okay, Black Adam. Like, he hasn't really shown his range. Again, I love Pain and Gain. Pain and Gain to me was like he's playing this like coked up ex-con who was just off his rails, who then was born again Christian, all that. It's a really wild movie, but we say this all the time that and this is Nick's point as well, to credit Nick. Nick always says that like he was chasing the bag more than, or like the big franchise than he was directors. You think of like Schwarzenegger back in the day was chasing directors. He was chasing McTiernan, James Cameron, Ivan Reitman, a lot of filmmakers. So I feel like The Rock, although he was kind of like becoming the Stallone or Schwarzenegger of my generation at least, he was chasing more the franchises. And his last, I guess, some of the directors, his big director before this probably was Michael Bay. And no offense to Justin Lin or James Wan or any of those guys, but like in terms of kind of like household names, Michael Bay is probably the last household name as a director. That is, no offense to Jake Kasdan, who did Red One and the Jumanji movies, but it was like, yeah, he hasn't worked with kind of like a really named director. But you definitely tell he probably was looking for that. And you get this again, and also too, get the Safdie brother again. Safdie brother, who's been really a tour for indie filmmaking the past couple of years, working with big names like Nolan now, and a lot of Emma Stone in The Curse. I admire him for this. And I think me and Nick were for sure were like, like The Smashing Machine, like it's gonna be crazy, whatever. And then I don't know what happens. I felt like it was out of Venice. It was like a 15-minute standing ovation, which I think happens a lot now for movies, even like not so good movies, apparently. And so with that, and I think TIFF as well. TIFF got a lot of strong reactions too. I'm like, oh wow, like people were saying, oh, he's a revelation, like he's gonna get the Oscar nom for this. This is crazy. I'm like, wow, good for The Rock, good for Dwayne Johnson, man, doing like a really different role. Again, he's still playing like a an athlete, as a wrestler turned actor, of course, still an athlete at heart. But again, it was like Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Oscar nomination, no way. And I feel like there was a big high and buzz for this movie. And then when it came out, people were like, yeah, we're good. And the movie flopped. I think it was like a $4 to $5 million opening weekend movie. I know the budget was like, I think 50 mil, which is pretty high for A24. And also A24 makes really, like raw and gritty. So yeah, 50 mil budget for Assassin's Machine. And they're known for more. They're more known for like the smaller, again, like the 5 to 10 mil movies that kind of like, the Safdies came up on, Robert Eggers came up on, Greta Gerwig came up on with Lady Bird, Barry Jenkins with Moonlight, a lot of these, indie filmmakers that kind of like got their name off of A24 for being high concept, low budget, kind of like how Blumhouse did as well. So for A24, I think is definitely becoming more of a more lucrative studio because they're putting more money into their budgets, like this movie, 50 mil, and I'm pretty sure Marty Supreme by the other Safdie brother, by Josh, had a huge budget as well. So like they're becoming more of a really like force of nature studio by backing up a lot more higher budget movies. And nothing crazy, whatever, but still they were known for like hey, we get a few bucks, whatever, here and there, and that's all you get. But now they're kind of making more lucrative, definitely more financial backing to their filmmakers and projects. So again, A24, Safdie, The Rock. Okay, great. And I gotta be honest, guys, I thought this movie was solid. I really did. And I, not being a fan of UFC or MMA, I wanted to watch it from a filmmaking perspective and a technical aspect of it all. Seeing The Rock, with the prosthetics, looks very, it looks like Mark Kerr. And this is Benny's first movie solo as a director. You're like, okay, what's going to happen with this? And I think this movie has a lot good going for it. I think The Rock definitely shows a lot of range, and good for him. He definitely showed a lot of range in terms of like, hey, I can do more of a serious acting. And I think this is definitely a good way for him to kind of be like, hey, definitely a good stepping stone for him to be like, hey, I want to do more of this stuff, whatever. How can I do more of this? And I think it was good for him to kind of get away from the big green screens and the monsters and the spectacle of it all. I'll watch those movies for sure too, but like it was refreshing to see more of a grounded role, not in like Skyscraper, not always the Jungle Cruise. Like, hey man, do more ground stuff because you definitely have a good itch for it with a good director, and also you have a good scene partner with Emily Blunt. So that, again, The Rock was great. Benny Safdie, solid script, solid direction. But I was kind of heartbroken with, Emily Blunt. And I love Emily Blunt. I mean, one of my favorite actors from, Devil Wears Prada to, Edge of Tomorrow, one of my favorite movies of all time. I just feel like when she's on screen, she's good, but she feels very underutilized. And I take a little bit of like a bummer because I'm like, oh man, when I see actors who I admire, who are people who I love watching, I feel they're kind of wasted. And hot take too, I thought her and Oppenheimer, same thing. I was like, Emily Blunt was good in Oppenheimer, but I felt like she was also underutilized. And I'm like, is it the script? Is it the directing? Because we don't she hold her own against heavy hitters, no doubt about it. But watching this, she's kind of just there to like, just to yell and just to argue with The Rock. And again, that's why I think the Safdie brother, flavor is when they kind of make you feel uncomfortable, kind of feel at ease, Good Time or Good Gems. Like the Safdie brother, like that trait is definitely that trademark is definitely there. But just her yelling and just kind of like being emotional, it's like that really I thought was kind of wasted. And I'm like, oh man, you have a great actress right here who definitely bring out like performances from her other co-stars, but she's there to argue and just be like, why you hate me and all stuff. And I'm like, well, this is not what we wanted from an actress who Oscar nominated, who definitely can handle her own and all that kind of stuff. And when she's on screen, you're like, what is she really here for? And she's based off of his girlfriend, then wife, I think now ex-wife, and you're like, well, what? And I mean, you feel for her too because, Mark in the movie played by Dwayne Johnson, like he's kind of a dickhead too, but he's blinded by success. He's blinded by ambition. Like he wants to do all this X, Y, Z, has to be the best. So you feel for her too at times of like he's kind of just like neglecting her, kind of just focusing on like it's all about me, getting very selfish at times. But the whole time you're kind of just like, I kind of feel dirty watching. I kind of feel like uncomfortable watching this. But again, like I said, that's more that's for sure a Safdie brother trademark. Both Josh and Benny have that kind of trademark in their directing style and filmmaking style. But I was like, it could have been anyone. It could have been Cate Blanchett. It could have been Emma Stone. I feel like it just, you kind of wasted this performance, and I was like, oh man, and I just feel like she had nothing to do. And there's the one point in the movie where she's out of it for a long time. You're like, where'd she go? Then she comes back later on. You're like, oh, where you been the past like half hour or whatever? You're like, what the hell? So yeah, I was kind of dumb. I kind of bummed by that, and although the fight scenes are really good in this movie, the fight scenes are, I mean, again, because I know Benny Safdie said on the podcast, he was like, I wanted to be like, you're watching from the audience, like we won't do it like in the ring, whatever. You're gonna be like, hey, if we can't get into this ring, neither can you. And I'm like, okay, I like that kind of approach because it feels really raw and gritty. He actually had The Rock do a lot of the fighting, a lot of the choreography, a lot of the stunts, and I'm like, oh, cool, I like that. It feels really raw. It feels authentic. But the movie, I think that my biggest problem with the movie though is that it's very repetitive. Like the whole movie is like him going back and forth from Phoenix to Japan, because like all like a lot of the fighting was happening in Japan for the early days of MMA and UFC. It just felt like we're watching the same thing. Okay, he's back in Phoenix arguing with his girlfriend, Emily Blunt. Okay, going back. He's going to train a little bit. Go back to Japan. Okay, fighting a little bit more. Things go poorly. Back to Phoenix to train, and then they throw in that he had an opioid addiction where he was relying on painkillers a lot, which was hurting him, and he overdosed. And it was in the movie, and I'm pretty sure that was part in the documentary too. But it's just like it was kind of just like the same thing, copy and paste. And I'm like, well, I think Benny wanted to remake the documentary, but like with a bigger budget and with bigger stars, it kind of felt like that. And I'm like, well, no, focus on telling a movie from a more narrative perspective, but a lot of it was rinse and repeat. And I guess what point in the middle was kind of like, all right, like what's next? So I kind of felt a little bit burned out where I'm like, all right, I mean, this was it. Like, okay, I'm still intrigued by the fighting. And I thought the actor who played his buddy / trainer, Ryan Bader, who played Mark Coleman, he gave a phenomenal performance. He's also a fighter himself. And I like that, like, his kind of like dynamic between him and Mark Kerr, and like you definitely felt the brotherhood between the two of them, and also seeing Bass Rutten playing himself. Well, like obviously I saw him in Here Comes the Boom, so underrated MMA movie, talking about MMA movies. So the supporting cast is good, but I think halfway into the movie, you're just seeing the same thing around and around and around again. You're like, okay, what are we working towards here? What are we moving towards here? And it definitely shows of how much Mark Kerr had how much had influence on MMA, and how much he had a really early pioneer, and how he definitely probably back then you weren't getting paid much. You're kind of like, hey, you're risking your body and your mind for the sport. You're not really getting paid enough for it. How it is now, where MMA fighters make a lot of money and they're very well off. But so I definitely appreciate that angle, but I think after an hour in, you're like, I'm kind of seeing the same movie, just different time. Okay, that was a year ago. Now it's a year later, whatever. You're like, oh, okay. So I was kind of bummed that I was seeing the same movie over and over again, and then they bring in back the whole thing with him and his girlfriend Dawn. Like, okay, they're gonna fight again, and then she wants to try to commit suicide. You're like, what is going on here? So I feel like the movie, I definitely see that. I think the movie had a lot of potential to lead up for it, and then I think when people were watching it, they were like, okay, this was good, but like there was a lot of potential kind of left on the table to a point of like, oh man, this could have been great. But again, it is still a very good performance, a good showcase of The Rock's talent. Sorry, Dwayne The Rock Johnson's talent. Dwayne Johnson's talents as an actor moving forward. I know he has a project with Scorsese in the works apparently. I know he had a movie with Zemeckis a while, but that probably fell through. But I want to see him more do more of these movies. And working with Safdie again, working with Benny Safdie, working with more well-known, more kind of word, more iconic directors, like whatever. So I definitely feel like he wants to work with Nolan badly, because he always talks about him and the whole thing with the IMAX and Red One, and then this year with Benny Safdie and Emily Blunt being friends with Chris Nolan. It's like, you can definitely tell he wants to work with Nolan, hopefully. And hopefully one day he can. It'll be really cool, actually. So, and I for sure Nolan praised him, rightfully so. I think it's a great performance. But, I was kind of let down with this movie. That I was like, oh, man, this could have been better. So I'd give Smashing Machine a 6.5 out of 10. Good, decent, not great. And, I think his Oscar nom and chances are definitely dying down with each and every minute. But again, I have to give him props for definitely trying something new and trying something, a little bit more personal, more grounded. But again, I hope despite the movie flopping pretty hard and bombing, I do think that he won't be like, hey, I'm done with this. Hey, just keep trying, man. I think you'll find your footing eventually. The more you keep doing it, and you also, you're still a household name. But I think it's just really got to find the right script, the right director. And this was for sure part of it, but I think there's probably better projects for him down the road. Maybe not too close to home with being an athlete. Maybe more like in a Scorsese movie or a Nolan movie that can, really bring out a different range of him. But I think definitely Benny definitely did with him. So again, solid movie, not great. But again, I do think that everyone was hyped for this movie, and it kind of just a little crashed and burned, unfortunately. But hey, those are my reviews. Kind of similar ratings. I guess 7 for Roofman, 6.5 for Smashing Machine. So very similar in terms of this week's ratings. Like I said, things to tease. Predator review, as well as Now You See Me 3 review. Again, I'm probably doing a double feature today of seeing Die My Love and Chrissy Before It Leaves. That movie those movies are leaving after a week, so surprise. Running Man this weekend, and then next week, a big one is Wicked Part 2, or Wicked for Good, coming out on my birthday, 21st. Yup. I think we're going to the press screening the Tuesday, which is really cool. I think Amazon Prime members are doing a screening on Monday, which is really cool as well. So you probably see it before us. Lucky you. So yeah, looking forward to Wicked, of course. And then Thanksgiving week, probably will have a few newsletters for you guys. Probably won't be going on much next week. Oh no, Knives Out. That's right, Knives Out comes out. Knives Out 3 comes out on that week of Thanksgiving. Optimistic. I love the first Knives Out. Did not like Glass Onion at all. Was super bummed out about it. I remember I was hyped having it in theaters because I remember seeing Knives Out in theaters with Joel and our friend and our friend Kyle when he came out to visit us, and we loved that movie. And then Glass Onion, I was like, what happened, guys? This movie is not what and people love that movie, but for me, I was like, it was a big letdown where I was like, oh man. So a lot more to cover. What else? Like streaming stuff's coming out. We'll see. I'm trying to think, Avatar next month. So yeah, we'll definitely, hopefully, a lot more to review for you all, and have to get more people on the show before the year end. And of course, we'll always end our year with our top 10 of the year, which I love doing. I know that me and the boys love doing that every year as well. Except too, I have my review of the Springsteen movie as well. So hopefully, get that out to you by the end of this weekend. Again, my apologies once again for getting this late to you. Now it's pretty late for both of these movies, but I finally had some downtime and I had free time from work and having a busy schedule. So hope you all enjoy this episode of this review roundup for Smashing Machine and Roofman. But until then, my friends, have a great before Thanksgiving. Oh, I've got 2 weeks after before Thanksgiving, but hope you're having a great November. Hopefully, if you're in the cooler areas of the country, hope you're staying warm. If you're like us in AZ, still at 85 degrees, so we're still wearing shorts and t-shirts. But yeah, hope you're enjoying some good movies, some good content, some good shows. And guys, again, Q4 is great. We have a lot more to cover, a lot more things to catch up on and geek out on. So definitely have your podcast and YouTube notifications ready when we drop more episodes and content. But tell them, my friends, stay well, stay safe, but more importantly, of course, we will see you guys at the movies.